My fellow Nerdigans, welcome back to another episode of That's So Nerdy. Today I've got the winning deck profile for the last video, and it is none other than himself, the King, Dark King Mechikabura. This is a wish leader. Most people should be pretty familiar with what this deck does, but we'll go over the front side first. You can only include up to 7 Dark Dragon Balls in your deck. Pretty typical for wish decks. Excuse me. With how smoky it is outside, I've been coughing a lot. Auto, when this card attacks, add up to 2 Dark Dragon Balls from your deck and or life to your hand, and then shuffle any area that you look through. And then you awaken with 7 Dragon Balls in your drop area. You get to restand 1, draw 1, and then send a battle card from their drop to their warp, which helps with the deck's engine overall. And then on the awakened side, you get to draw on swing, and then he has an activate main. Once per turn, you can slide a card from your hand underneath your deck, and then you can either choose one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 4 or less and take control of it, which doesn't ignore barrier, obviously. Or you can remove all of your Dark Dragon Balls in your drop area from the game, and if you do that, this card gains triple attack for the turn. So that in itself is its own sort of win con, which is really nice. You don't really have to proc it very often, but it is a nice option to have. So getting into the unison, we're running 4 copies of Super Mirror Overflowing Power. It's a 20k unison for 3 specified black, and if you +1, you get to put 2 Demon Realm Soldier tokens into play. Also, another +1 is you remove one of your skillless battle cards from the game, draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to its owner's warp. So there's some removal, and then it's also got an auto that at the beginning of your opponent's turn, you get to choose one of your skillless battle cards and give it blocker for the turn, which can also come in handy. I found myself not using it as much in this build as I did before I started running this build, but it is a nice option to have. And then we're running 4 copies of Toa Dimensional Convoker. It is a 1-drop 4K that allows you to search the top 5 for a Demon God, Demon Realm Race, or Evil Wizard card. And then activate main once per turn. If your leader card is black, play up to 1 skillless Demon God card with 15,000 power from your deck or drop area, but that part doesn't matter because we're not playing any of those actual skillless cards. And then we're running 4 copies of Demon God Toa, Offering of the Dark Dragon Balls for our super combo. Just because it's live so fast, and there are games where like you'll end the game with 7 life. So if you're playing a super combo that requires you to be at a low life total, then you may never turn your super combos on. So and this one is searchable with this Toa, so it just makes it that much better. Speaking of things that are searchable with Toa, running 4 copies of Demon God Poutine. It is, I call it Poopo, and I can't help but giggle every time I say it. But it's a 2-cost counterattack that if you bottom deck a card from your hand, your opponent has to warp 2 cards from their hand every time they want to attack for the remainder of the turn. Really good in Archetype Floodgate that's searchable by this Toa here. I believe there's actually only 2 copies of 1 battle card that are not searchable with that Toa in this deck, so it's really helpful. Moving on, we've got 2 copies of Demon God Toa Umbral Might. This is a 15k dual attacker that you can EX evolve on top of this Toa if you like. Excuse me, sorry. And she's got an auto of when she's played, your opponent can either You get to draw one card, and your opponent gets to choose up to 2 of their battle cards on the field or in their hand, and on field and or in their hand, and send them to their warp. And if they don't, you take control of their unison. This is really, really helpful against things like Bunison, and if you're playing against any unison heavy strategy, they're usually going to pitch the cards to warp instead of letting you take control of their unison. But sometimes getting that ability off just puts your opponent in a little bit of a pickle. Now we're running 2 copies of Shroom Ritual at hand. It is a 4-cost 15k, but you can activate main by paying one black energy. Sorry, I'm having such a hard time speaking. 1 black energy. You get to play this out, search your deck for up to 2 Dark Dragon Balls, place them into your drop area, and then if you have 2 or more energy when this card attacks, you get to send one of your opponent's battle cards from their drop area to their warp. And also, if they have a 3-cost or less on board, you also get to warp that, as long as it doesn't have barrier. And then we're running 4 copies of Salsa Ritual at hand. Also plays out for 1 and does the same thing with the Dragon Balls as Shroom does. Except when this one's played, your opponent warps 1 from hand and then draws a card, and then when this card attacks, you get to warp 1 of their battle cards from their drop area and draw a card. Really good for keeping your hand size up. Him and actually the quote-unquote boss card for the deck. I guess one of the boss cards for the deck. And then for the last of the Ritual at Hand cards, Demon Gato Ritual at Hand. This is the board removal. It plays out for 1 and does the same thing as Shroom and Salsa, as long as you have 2 Dragon Balls in your drop area, just like Shroom and Salsa. But this one has blocker, and when it's played, you warp anything on board that doesn't have barrier, or any battle card on board that doesn't have barrier, and then your opponent also warps a card from hand and draws a card. Alright, now getting into the leader's ability to steal cards. Once you take an opponent's battle card, you've got Ginyu the Body Snatcher at 2 copies of it. Its permanent is it gets minus 10k power during your opponent's turn, but it really doesn't matter to me because a lot of the times, like, he's just kind of like a little bit of a red herring. Throw him out there because he is dangerous if left to his own devices, but I also have other dangerous things that I can play out during my turn as well. But he is a 20k double striker that you can play out for free by popping a battle card that you have stolen from your opponent. Alright, now getting into the heavy hitters of the deck. Excuse me. Playing 3 copies of Demon God Toa Furious Onslaught. I am so glad I made the switch to putting this card in my deck along, especially with the synergy of the Mirror Unison, because if you have 2 or more skillless battle cards in play, you can play her out for 2, and then she's got Deflect, Double Strike, and Auto Limit 1 that you get to choose 2 of your skillless battle cards, remove them from the game, and that includes anything you may or may not have stolen from your opponent. And then when this card attacks, you get to draw a card, switch this card to active mode, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the turn. So it's essentially a 25k double strike dual attacker. And you almost can always guarantee that you're going to be able to proc that ability, because Mira here gives you 2 tokens, which are skillless battle cards. So the synergy is just really, really good. And then our other win con that goes along with the leader is 1 copy of Shenron the Wish Granter. pay 5 to play this out, and then you'll draw 2 and then give your leader plus 15k and triple strike. So you play this out, give your leader the buff, remove the Dragon Balls from your drop area to give your leader triple attack. So that makes it a 30k triple strike, triple attack, and it draws each time it swings. So you're going to be drawing 3 times on the turn that you do that. But when you do remove those Dragon Balls from the drop area, these guys become full 4 cost instead of 1 cost. But by that time, that really shouldn't matter, and you should be killing your opponent easily. Alright. Now... Uh-oh. Okay, moving right along. Sorry about that. We're running 2 copies of Dark Mask King Devilish Dominator. It is a 25k triple strike with deflect, and you can play it out for 4 if your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp. And once per turn, when this card attacks, send up to 2 battle cards from your opponent's drop area to their warp. If your opponent has 10 or more cards in their warp, switch this card to active mode. So it essentially becomes a 25k double strike triple strike dual attack, but also it's got an auto that once per turn, if your opponent activates a counter skill in battle with this card, then they warp a life, which is really it's actually stolen a couple games for me. Like that ability is just really strong. And then moving into the last of our battle cards, we're playing 1 copy of Dark King Mechikabura Power Restored. This card is alright. It is a 30k deflect double strike that you can play out for 4 as long as your leader is a Mechikabura only card, which this one is. And then you will, if your opponent has 4 more cards in their warp when this card is played, choose all of your opponent's battle cards and send them to their owner's warp. Then choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 7 or less and different card names. Negate their skills for the game and play them in your battle area. You can't play non-black battle cards for the turn. So it's important to note that if you do that, you can't pop one of those into Ginyu, but that's that's fine, because most of the time you're not even using this guy. He's just kind of a contingency. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 win cons in this deck, so, and they're all really accessible. So moving right along into the extra cards, we'll start with the Dragon Balls. 3 copies of Yearning for the Dark Dragon Balls. It does the normal thing of a 5k boost that all Dragon Balls do. It also can warp a 1-drop, I believe. Yeah, your opponent chooses a 1-drop on their side of the board and sends it to their warp. So that won't work against Trunks Cheetah, obviously, because those cards have barrier. But against like DP, BMS, and stuff like that, yeah, it works really well. And then 4 copies of the Dark Empire Strikes Back. This one, when you pitch it with another Dragon Ball, or you pitch it with a Demon Realm card, you get to draw 2 cards, and also, I believe, send 1 battle card from your opponent's drop to their warp. So that is just more ability to turn your Devilish Dominator, your Power Restored on, stuff like that. Next, we're running 3 copies of Darkness Judgment. It is a counter attack that you can pay 1 for and just do a hard negate. But if your opponent has 3 or more battle cards in their warp, this is an in-archetype Bean. It's not going to restand any energy like Bean does, but it does give your leader a permanent 5k boost for the turn. So that's really good. When it's good, it's really good. And then when it's not good, you could always just charge it for energy. And then we're running 3 copies of Petrification because it's Petrification and it's amazing. definitely helps to get around some of those pesky cards that have abilities that really tax you when they attack or when they're played. So Petrification, just awesome. Anyone who doesn't know, you pay 1, pitch 1, and then you get to choose a battle card, ignoring barrier, and it can't activate skills, attack, block, used in a combo, any of that. Really, really good negate. We're running 3 copies of Power Burst because we are running a 1-drop in this deck, so just being able to recycle that Toa and being able to use that Toa to search out any of these pieces, Sans for this one, and this one. So these 3 are the only things that are not searchable as far as battle cards go in this deck. Everything else is 100% searchable. And then we're running 4 copies of Ultimate Minus Energy Ball because this is another negate that ignores barrier. You send a 15k or less ignoring barrier to your opponent's warp, or you can pay 1 for the activate main / battle, limit 1, and give your leader or a battle card plus 15k for the turn, or until the next main phase or the end of the turn, whichever one happens first. Why they worded it like that, I do not know, but that's how they worded it. And then we're running 2 copies of Support of the Dark Empire. Just another good way to get some skillless cards out there. Normally you're going to probably use those blocker tokens when they're played out, but if you don't, you can always revive the blocker with Mirror's ability, which is really, really nice. And then the SCR of choice for this deck, or at least the SCR of choice that I have available to me, is going to be Heroine's Lineage. For the activate battle, pay 1 and steal a 7 cost or less from your opponent. Alright, well, if you like this deck profile, go ahead and smash that like button, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, that way you don't miss any videos that I post, and you can try, or at least I can try and continue to make content that you'll enjoy. So y'all just have a good night and stay nerdy.